and welcome to the premiere episode of PopArt, a new series for, by, and about women creators in the world of comics, animation, and video games. I'm Emma Fyffe, a woman about the internet who you might recognize from Collider or the Twitch channel HyperRPG, though I actually got my start doing a Sailor Moon podcast of my own creation called Love and Justice. And I am joined today by somebody who is not only an authority on all things comics, but also all things Vault of Midnight, which is where we are filming right here in Detroit. It is Charley Tucker.
Hi.
Charley, tell us about yourself. Tell us about Vault of Midnight. What's your deal?
Well, Vault of Midnight is a sort of super source for comics, pop culture, all sorts of nerdy consumables in Detroit, Michigan, and in other locations across the state. I've been working here for several years. I kind of got my start as like an anime and manga nerd, and then slowly became obsessed with comics and other things, board games, tabletop games. Yeah, I live in this stuff.
And listen, we have Charley on the show because, as I said, she really is a comic authority. So we're going to be discussing all things Black Panther, which I think is something that is
a
personal favorite for her, and first and foremost on everyone's minds. Also, during the course of the show today, we'll be breaking down our top 5 pop culture news items from the week, as well as discussing my personal history with Sailor Moon. But first, Charley, let's talk about Black Panther.
Yes. Yeah, I first got introduced to Black Panther actually through my love of who I think is the best X-Men ever, Storm.
I mean, objectively, she is the best X-Men ever. Like, there's no contest.
She's amazing. Can't deny it. There's a big event in Marvel Comics. She actually was married. She started a relationship with Black Panther. They fell in love and had this huge wedding.
Oh, I feel like I have heard a little bit about this because I think, as you say, it's one of those things where you got into Black Panther because of your interest in the X-Men and specifically the character of Storm, but obviously now we're in a place where a lot of people are going to start to be interested in Black Panther given the incredible success of the film.
Yeah, the movie brought in so many new people to kind of the comic book world. They knew about this movie through a lot of articles and things that were coming out. There was so much buzz about this movie that really goes beyond just the comic book world.
Yeah. I completely agree. And in the way that the film delivered, in addition to Michael B. Jordan looking fabulous in every single way,
100%
particularly with that hair. Oh boy. All right, Team Killmonger. But the other thing that really struck me about this film was the incredible presence of women. Because, I mean, you look at the Marvel films in general, and I mean, yes, like you've got Black Widow and you've got Scarlet Witch, but this was the first time that I really felt there was this incredible, diverse group of ladies who were just so essential to the spirit of this film and to everything that was Wakanda.
They really felt like not even just kind of a side character.
No, not at all.
A sidekick or anything, but they were just fighting alongside him. It was like you get a whole cast of characters, and of course you have Black Panther, T'Challa, the king himself, sort of in the middle, but you really get to know these women. You know, you have Okoye and Nakia.
Yes, and Shuri, oh my God, favorite new Marvel character, hands down. She's like Black Girl Q, and I love it.
I'm really hoping for some sort of interaction between, like, you know, we have the teenage Shuri and then we have teenage Peter Parker. Marvel, let it happen, please.
I mean, listen, I would be totally here for it, 100%. And I just, like, teenage genius, that is my MO, love it.
Yeah, I love the Dora Milaje. That's the sort of all-female army that kind of backs up Black Panther. They've been training since a young age. They follow him everywhere they go. They're just kind of, you know, Black Panther's first-hand women.
That was the thing, was as you say, it felt like they were so integral to the story. And I think that a lot of the strength of Black Panther as a story is that it is about this person who is a leader, and it's not like T'Challa, the Black Panther, has to be the one that does everything. Like, he puts so much trust.
Yeah, he has to rely on people, and he does, and it's really nice and refreshing to see someone who doesn't have to go about his own solo way. He trusts the women that he works with, and they help him out in return. So if you're really interested in the Dora Milaje and finding out about Okoye and Nakia, I would definitely recommend checking out this book right here. This is the complete Black Panther collection by Christopher Priest. I think this is sort of the quintessential Black Panther comic. If someone just saw the movie, they want to dive into the world of Wakanda and get to know T'Challa, I think this is a great place to start. It introduces the Dora Milaje for the first time ever, and this really shaped the way that Black Panther is today.
And when was this book published? Do you know?
I believe
it's got to say like in it somewhere.
I want to say that it came out maybe early 90s.
Yeah. This seems 90s-ish to me. Anyway, but Black Panther itself dates back to a lot earlier than that.
Yep, Black Panther was created in 1966. This was the height of the civil rights movement. I can't think of any more perfect time for a book like this to come out. Now, it's speculated, and there's not really any record of saying, that Marvel said, the civil rights movement was happening and we need to have a black superhero or anything like that. But one of the creators, Jack Kirby, has said before that he had black friends growing up, and he one day just realized that, hey, there are no black superheroes, and I want to create a character that reflects some of these people. I think one of his closest friends, childhood friends growing up, was African American, and so he created this character, Black Panther, in 1966, and then coincidentally enough, just a few months later, the Black Panther Party is actually formally realized. No connection to the name, by the way.
Yes.
Gotta throw that out
I was going to say, I think that is an important point to make, because I know in my own personal research on Black Panther, I definitely did find some very bizarre opinions that people had about Black Panther and its connection to the Black Panther movement. So clarifying.
Totally different. Marvel actually went out of their way after the formalization of the Black Panther Party. They actually tried to change the name of Black Panther to Black Leopard.
But listen, but my understanding is that panthers themselves are essentially, they just are black leopards.
Right?
So that's a little redundant.
So they tried to change the name. It didn't really stick. They changed it back, but they were trying to be clear of there's no kind of political association. However, later on, I think Marvel really tried to step up and say, hey, this is such a seminal character.
Yeah.
And they actually included him in fights where he was taking on the KKK, apartheid in South Africa. So there are a lot of flashes of a lot of political moments. And, he is a king, and he was also, the first black-powered superhero.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. So
yeah, it's super important and super relevant, I think, even to this day. And I love that it's become so much more incorporated into the mainstream of comics now. I think, given the success of the film, you are going to get people that are showing more of an interest in the comics and in the history of this character. And so, you recommend starting with the complete collection. What are other titles that you would suggest as like a diving in point for people that want to get into Black Panther?
After you've taken a trip to the Christopher Priest collection, I would absolutely recommend this, Who is the Black Panther? This is by Reginald Hudlin and John Romita Jr.
Listen, I mean, who is the Black Panther in the title? I feel like that's a no-brainer.
I think this is a good, if you need crash course in the history of Black Panther, this is where you want to go. It talks about the predecessor to T'Challa, his father, T'Chaka.
Oh, T'Chaka, yeah.
There's even a really, really amazing scene with him in Captain America that no one wants to miss. So I think if you really want some backstory, it's a great place to go to. And Chadwick Boseman, actually, who plays Black Panther in the movie, he cited this book as sort of one of his main inspirations that really led him to play the Black Panther.
Oh,
so
interesting.
It was a really important one to him, and something that he definitely really connected with when he was playing that role.
Nice.
Yep. The second one I would recommend after that, if you want something that's current, I would go with the Black Panther. This is the first volume from the Ta-Nehisi Coates run. You might recognize the name Ta-Nehisi Coates. He's a big name in the kind of journalism and prose novel world.
Sure.
He actually won a Genius Grant for some of the amazing work that he's done, and a lot of it is very politically charged. So it makes sense that he would go to this book right here. And the thing that I love about this is it mostly talks about what it means to be a leader, what it means to be king. For the first time ever, T'Challa's having to deal with Wakanda being at war.
Right.
People that maybe don't think he's doing a good job as king, and he's really seeing a lot of deep, intense personal struggles.
Yeah, and I think that is the thing that is so great about Black Panther, and one of the things that made the film so compelling is that it was very much about a person's journey to becoming a leader. It wasn't like, T'Challa became king and boom, he's amazing at it and just everybody wants to follow him. I mean, there is a certain amount of people do have loyalty to him because obviously we see Wakanda is a nation that it is very loyal to their
tradition.
Yeah, tradition. That's exactly the word. Yeah. So that is very interesting to me. Now you were telling me some other really interesting things about Ta-Nehisi Coates. off camera and his history with comic books.
Yeah, I mean, this guy was hand-selected by Marvel, who did a great job picking him for this book. He's been a comic book nerd his whole life. He talks about really being into the X-Men as kind of his first nerd love. And I think the choice for him to go on to write Black Panther, somebody that I think he really connects with, and especially being able to write from kind of a political perspective really helps. This series is ongoing too. He's still working on the whole Black Panther universe right now. So if you're trying to figure out like what's T'Challa doing in 2018, this would be the one that you would want to go to.
This is the book. You will find out in these pages.
He also has a hand in the world of Wakanda right here. And if we're talking about, you want to know about the women, the Dora Milaje, the kick tons of butt, this is the one that you want to go to. This is actually written by Roxane Gay, and she is the first African-American female to write a series at Marvel. So it's a huge deal. I mean, kind of wild that it took so long.
Right. But also very appropriate, I think, to have an African-American woman having a hand in crafting a story that takes place in the world of Black Panther.
Yep, and this series follows two rogue Dora Milaje warriors. This is kind of
rogue. How are they rogue?
Well, there's a lot of turmoil going on in Wakanda. And the Dora Milaje, while they are very, very loyal to the throne, sometimes maybe that means that they make decisions that other people in that organization don't agree with. So they go rogue. There's a lot of really great romance and love stories intermixed in there as well.
Now, tell me about this love story that's in this book.
Well, one of them is sort of in a leadership role, and they both kind of start to agree on some of these things that are happening, and they decide to run away, and they really kind of start to form their relationship.
Is this a love story between two women?
Between two women, and not only between two women, but between two women of color, which is very important.
I love that.
It's amazing. It's just one singular graphic novel. It's a pretty short series as well, so I mean it's an easy one to just get into and read, especially if you're looking for some romances.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, and so then next up, our final title.
Yeah, my last title is the New Avengers. This is the first volume called Everything Dies. This is by Jonathan Hickman.
That's not grim at all. I mean, it's also accurate. Yeah.
It's kind of an undertaking to get into this series right now, but the reason I want to bring it up is because we're right around the corner from the Avengers Infinity Wars coming out. This is huge. We've been leading up to this for all along. This is coming out at the end of April, and this I think is a great book if you want to get into, if you loved Black Panther, but you want to see him in kind of some Avengers action. This is him in a group with some other super smart characters in the Marvel Universe that you'll recognize from the movies, like Doctor Strange, Tony Stark, and they're taking on some cosmic level danger. So I think this is a really good primer if you're really excited for the Infinity Wars. You want to know a little bit about the Infinity Gauntlet that we've been kind of getting teasers for. This is my top suggestion for fans of the Marvel Universe.
Sure, absolutely. So Marvel Cinematic Universe, you want to get a sense of Black Panther's sort of place in all of it.
Yeah, what's his role in the Avengers? Yeah. And how does he kind of fit in? And we see a little bit of that, I think, in Marvel Civil War.
Sure.
When he first enters, but now we get to see him actually fighting alongside these other characters that we've kind of grown accustomed to.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I agree. It's like he was introduced to the cinematic universe in Civil War, but I think in Infinity War, we're gonna really get a chance to see his place in all of this.
And by all the trailers, which are great.
Yeah.
A lot of it is taking place in Wakanda.
Yes.
And not only that, Okoye is gonna be back.
Oh,
I'm so excited.
Totally. Oh yeah. And I mean, there is no doubt in my mind. First of all, I need a scene where like Shuri and Tony Stark go like toe to toe on science,
and
because
they can't.
Right?
We say toe to toe, but Shuri confirmed is
way surpasses him. Totally smarter.
Smartest person in the world.
Yeah, and I feel like Bucky's gonna be getting a vibranium arm. Just theorizing.
Speculation.
I feel like that's a thing that could definitely happen. Given the post-credit scene in Black Panther, I feel like we were definitely setting up for that. But I guess we'll have to wait and see until Infinity War comes out. But in the meantime, you do have the option of so many great titles within the Black Panther universe, and I think you've given us a nice little rundown of how we ourselves could kind of jump in there and get acquainted with it.
I'm obviously happy to talk about Black Panther at length at any time.
And speaking of getting acquainted with things, we're now going to transition into a new segment that is going to be recurring on the show, where we spotlight women creators in animation, both seasoned and up and coming, with our word of the week. And what better word than for our first episode than to say hello to the word
Hello.
Hello.
And that animation was done by the fabulous Daisha Stewart, who is an alum of the College for Creative Studies right here in Detroit.
Right down the street.
Love it. And if you guys are animators, be you seasoned pros or up and coming, keep your eyes to the internet, because we will be putting out a call for new people to come in and contribute to our animated segments for the Word of the Week. And speaking of the week, we're going to take a look back at the top 5 pop culture related items from this week. Number 5. If you guys are Star Wars fans and you are not watching Forces of Destiny, what is wrong with you? I know that it is targeted at the Barbie buying audience, the young female demographic, but it is a fantastic contribution to the Star Wars universe. It's from executive producers Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck, who worked on Star Wars Rebels, and written by Jennifer Moreau, who manages to squeeze in an incredible amount of emotional gravitas and plot lines in very, very short episodes. Highlights from the second series, which just dropped on Disney's YouTube channel, as well as on the Disney Channel itself, include Maz Kanata's connection to the original Star Wars trilogy, Ahsoka Tano's trip with Padme and Anakin, and also the introduction of Rose Tico into this series.
Number 4, Isola #1 comes out from Image Comics on April 4th. This series is created by Brendan Fletcher and Carl Kirshner, who were hot off the heels of their finished series Gotham Academy. This was sort of a Scooby-Doo meets Harry Potter and the Batman universe, all ages, very fun comic book. Isola centers around an army general that's escorting her cursed queen through a mystical island called Isola, appropriately enough. And this is sort of what I'm thinking is almost like an adult epic fantasy, almost Disney-like comic that I think that a lot of people could get into. This is one of my most anticipated series of the year. The artwork is absolutely incredible. If you've never seen Carl Kirshner's work, definitely check out some images. There's a lot of cool promotional stuff out for Isola. Like I said, this book comes out on April 1st. It's going to be an ongoing monthly series from Image, and it's definitely worth a read.
Number 3. In addition to announcing that Star vs. the Forces of Evil will be renewed for a 4th season, Disney has also announced 2 new series coming to its 2019 lineup, including Amphibia, a series from Matt Braley, an alumni of Gravity Falls, which centers around a young girl named Anne who's a little self-centered, maybe doesn't necessarily get along with people her own age, and she winds up in the magical, mystical, rural land of Amphibia, which is, of course, populated by frog people. And with the help of an energetic frog named Sprig, she's going to become a hero and discover the meaning of true friendship for the very first time. And also a series from DuckTales director Dana Terrace called The Owl House, which is about a teenage girl named Luz who accidentally stumbles into the demon world, like you do. Oops, and then becomes apprenticed to a rebellious witch named Edda at the eponymous Owl House.
Number 2. If you're an esports fan and been following the Overwatch League, you'll be really excited to know that the 4 newest members for the struggling team, the Shanghai Dragons, have finally arrived in the United States, and they're gearing up to join in the next stage of the tournament. One of these players being the first female pro Overwatch player in the Overwatch League this year. Her name is Kim Geguri Seyoung. She's from Korea, and we're just so excited to see her joining the league. You know, this is a scene that could and always will need more diversity, and we really wish her the best of luck, and the Shanghai Dragons as well. If you're wanting to see more Geguri in action, you can follow her on Twitch. She has some awesome tank plays that I know that you'll really enjoy.
And she's like literally the cutest thing you've ever
so
seen
cute,
in your life.
And she's obsessed with frogs.
Yep, she's adorable. Yeah. Number 1. Google recently launched the Change the Game initiative, which empowers teenage girls to create video games. A recent poll discovered that 52% of mobile game users are women, and so Google thought, hey, why not even the playing field as far as the people who are actually creating these games go? The 5 finalists will receive an all-expenses-paid trip to LA, as well as a scholarship to attend the Girls Make Games summer camp out in Los Angeles as well. And the winner will receive up to $10,000 in scholarship money to their own university and up to $15,000 in a technology courses of study. So my gateway into all of this was, again, doing a Sailor Moon podcast, which I created with a couple of my friends because we just wanted to talk about a thing that we liked. So I just wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit about, my own history with this whole weird, wild digital world.
And there's so much rich culture and sort of history that goes into Sailor Moon, not just about the world that she lives in, but when it was created. And what about the show really kind of resonated with you as a kid, and how did you get into it?
So jumping to the second part of the question of how I got into it, I mean, basically, when I was a kid, it was this was back in 1995, it was airing in syndication on one of the UPN networks, like really early in the morning. I'm talking 5, maybe 6 a.m.
I used to have my dad record it for me because I would be asleep at that time.
Well, listen, it worked out really well for me because I was going to horse camp at the time. Yeah, and that started really early in the morning because, you had to get in and like brush the horses and clean out their hooves and get ready for a whole day. So actually it was good timing for me. But what actually initially got me interested in it, which I think was part of, Toei and Bandai's mission, so good job on you, was advertisements for the toys. I saw an ad for these toys, and I remember seeing an ad for them on TV and then, seeking them out in the toy store and looking at this whole lineup of women. Because most of the media that I was consuming, there was the girl. There was just one girl and she had to be everything. And in Sailor Moon, suddenly there were all of these women and they looked different from one another and they were good at different things and they were bad at different things. And, I think probably the only other thing that comes to mind for me at the time that I was regularly exposed to was X-Men. And even then,
I felt the same way.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember watching the first X-Men animated series and just being able to, I think they were playing reruns of them. And you had Storm, you had Rogue, you had Jubilee. There were so many different people with all different types of personalities.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a new thing for you as a kid, and especially to just have something that they were kind of, I think, interplaying with, men too. So I really like that kind of synergy. And I definitely think that I can connect that with Sailor Moon in a lot of ways, because a lot of people, and the cool thing about it is you can pick a Sailor Scout that represents you and
absolutely
you connect with them.
Yeah, and that is the thing is that I have one friend, one of the girls who hosts Love and Justice, my Sailor Moon podcast with me. For her it was, she really enjoyed the show, but then by the time they got around to the 3rd season, Sailor Moon S, that was when Sailor Uranus gets introduced, and suddenly you have this character who is not really very feminine. She's kind of a tomboy and she drives race cars and she's got short hair. And so my friend felt like she was being represented on screen in a way that women frequently weren't. And I mean, and it was such an important thing too. And, unfortunately, at the time in the US when they first started airing it, U.S. television was not quite ready for Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune.
We'll call them cousins.
Yeah, we'll just call them cousins, because now it seems like weird incest instead of just lesbians, which is fine and good and made an impact on me as a kid, because I remember that was one of the first instances of a gay couple being represented in the media, because it was so interesting that Deke made that choice, because the manga, the comic book that it was based on, had already been published to completion in the US. And not only did they not change the names of any of the Outer Senshi, which they had been doing, but they also didn't change that relationship. So in the manga, I had already read all the way through it because it had already all been published. And, you know, Michiru and Haruka were a couple, and then suddenly
watching it, you know that they're a couple the whole time. They're trying to hide it.
Everybody knows. Everybody knows.
And now in the newest Sailor Moon Crystal that they announced, they did kind of go back to that.
Yeah. Well, not only that, not only is, you know, we live in this wonderful age now where you know, you get gay relationships in shows that are targeted at younger audiences. I mean, you look at something like Steven Universe, and there's all kinds of, like, you know, semi-lesbian, non-gender binary kind of things going on, and it's so
And it doesn't
great.
need to be labeled, it doesn't need to be pointed out, but it's just simply, these things exist because they do in our own lives.
Yeah, exactly. It's just part of the world. So, you know, fortunately, with Viz's new dub of Sailor Moon of the old series, and also of the work that they've done on distributing Sailor Moon Crystal domestically, that relationship is restored back to what it was. And Sailor Moon Crystal itself is also based a lot more closely on the original manga, which was, you know, created by Naoko Takeuchi. And I think that's another thing that kind of speaks volumes to me is the fact that she has such a hold on her property now, because she wasn't super happy with some of the stuff that happened in the 90s anime, because she felt that it had a much more male gaze, because
she wrote things to be a certain way, and she was writing for girls. And I can imagine that's got to be pretty hurtful to see it go in a different direction.
And all of the animators at Toei, the animation company at the time, were male.
Of course.
Wah, wah. It's a problem, but it's getting better. It's getting better. But anyway, so then, you know, not before you got Sailor Moon Crystal, which is basically just a direct page-to-screen translation of the original manga, you got what is actually my favorite version of Sailor Moon, which is the live action series, Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon, which aired 2003, 2004. And it's, you know, there's a little bit of a suspension of disbelief curve involved in it. Some of these special effects are very cheesy. Fortunately, after about episode 2, they realized maybe CGI monsters weren't so great, and they just went down to, like, the Super Sentai Kamen Rider storage closets and started grabbing, like, yes, this head and this jacket and these shoes, that's a monster now. But the thing that's so great about it is it really brings the focus back to the different perspectives of the women in the show.
And we were talking about how you can just connect with one of them.
Yes, exactly.
And obviously, I have to ask you, who was your favorite Sailor Scout? Oh, well,
I gotta know. My favorite is Sailor Venus. She is the leader of the Inner Guardians. They're the only ones, really, that are in the first 2 seasons or first 2 story arcs. So Sailor Pluto gets introduced kind of towards the end of the second story arc. But she was the leader of that group, because, I mean, so first of all, spoilers, guys, if you've never read or seen Sailor Moon, they're all reincarnations of magical space princesses. They all have this cosmic destiny to fulfill and, you know, protect the Earth, protect the universe, and above all else, protect the Princess of the Moon, Sailor Moon herself.
Of course.
But, you know, Sailor Venus, when you're first introduced to her in the manga, she is masquerading as the Moon Princess to, like, protect her.
Sailor V.
Yeah, exactly. So she's Sailor V, and then she finally shows up. She's the last one to show up of the sort of original 5, and they're like, "Oh, are you the Moon Princess?" And she's like, "Why, yes, I am." In the live action version, she goes so far as to wear a very small tiara on her head to just, like, emphasize this is the princess. She's not the princess.
See the tiara.
Yeah,
princess.
She's being a decoy. She's she would sacrifice herself, though, to save her princess. And I think that's one of the things that I really enjoy about her story, is a lot of it is her struggle with this idea that she is the leader and she was destined to do this. And I mean, it kind of brings it back to the conversation we were having earlier about what I like so much about Black Panther and T'Challa, is this idea of maybe I'm not a great leader. Like, what constitutes a great leader? And if everybody else is, you know, reaching new levels of power before me, why can't I tap into that? And but it
teaches you how to rely on other people.
Absolutely.
And it's such a strong show about connections and friendships.
Oh yeah, because I mean, ultimately, and I mean, this is very true of anime and manga about the board across the board is ultimately power of friendship, man, triumphs over everything. And I don't think that that's a bad sort of universal message.
No, absolutely not. I mean, who can't connect with that if you're a kid or an adult?
Yeah.
That anyone can learn and take those core values from that show and
sure.
apply them.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, it's a series that is about women supporting one another and celebrating each other's differences, and that's so integral to, I think, everything that we're trying to convey here on PopArt.
And to see women working together, and it's not solely revolving around a male character.
Oh,
which is
no, listen.
You can have Tuxedo
Tuxedo Mask.
He's not even important.
Listen, he is the best damsel in distress that ever damsel in distressed. But yeah, again, it's a really positive story about women and the power of really feminine qualities of being compassionate, of being kind, of loving. And I think that, the world needs more of that.
100%.
So thank you guys so much for tuning in to our first episode of PopArt. Thank you, Charley, so much for joining me here today.
I have loved being on here talking about things that are just so important to me. So.
Indeed. And thank you, Vault of Midnight in general, which you are associated with. And of course, to Curtis here at the Detroit store. What a fabulous time we've had. Now, before we say goodbye, there's a little something we'd like to do to celebrate. And it's something that we're going to be incorporating into the show on a weekly basis. So I don't know if you have ever been on the social media site Pinterest. Charley, do you Pinterest very often?
I have been known to Pinterest on occasion.
Okay, well, listen, if
mostly
you
just looking, never actually doing anything.
Right. Well, if you have ever been on Pinterest, then you may know that there's a lot of really talented baking people out there, and some of them are of the nerdy variety. So we are going to wrap up things here today with our segment, SuperBake. And our guest baker this week is our very own Kathleen Haraga, our director. Here we go. Thank you so much. Yes, I feel like a round of applause is due. So these are Princess Leia cupcakes that she made herself from scratch. These are not from a box. That's very important to note.
Those are for you, girls.
Thank you. And yeah, you guys may or may not know this, but not only are there like geeky baking hobbyists, but there's also professional bakers that, like at DreamWorks, there is somebody who is literally dedicated to baking items for all of their animated IPs.
Dream job.
Seriously.
Amazing.
Yes. So if you guys are bakers and you want to be featured on the show, keep an eye out because we are going to be calling for people to show us their stuff, and you might get a chance to be featured here on the show. But until then, all right, let's get these cupcakes.
All right, cheers.
Cheers to a very successful first episode and to many, many more to come. Guys, we will be streaming live on Twitch as well as featuring our episodes on poppost.com.
You'll also be able to see us around the country at different conventions like E3, San Diego Comic-Con, and many of the various PAX conventions that are happening literally everywhere.
I mean, there's a PAX in like every city. So basically what we're saying is we're coming to your town, get ready, and we'll be coming back at you again all over the internet very soon. And until then, you know what? Just
eat some cupcakes.
Eat some cupcakes. Celebrate your nerdy loves and support the women in your life.